Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we are going to be looking at a Penguin Live lecture, and that is Gabriel Werlen's Penguin Live lecture, an excellent array of propless or semi-propless material that is absolutely fantastic. And I think that if you already know Gabriel's work, a lot of this would be additions to his effects. But if you're a bit unfamiliar and you don't own a lot of his products or you're not really sure who he is, this is going to be a treasure trove of mentalism for you. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Gabriel Werlen's Penguin Live. So what is this Penguin Live? It's a Penguin Live based on mentalism. It focuses on mental magic that is mostly impromptu, but it's very language based. So all of the magic here is very language based, that meaning that it can be done in any language, but it doesn't use a lot of moves, a lot of sleights, almost none of them at any point. Almost none of the routines use sleights or difficult moves or switch envelopes or gimmicks or anything. It's a very based on language type of performance and type of effects that you're going to learn here. So one of the effects that he does, which I loved, if you watched my last review, you know that it's something that I performed, is you come out. I can't do the first phase, but you'd come out, you'd give the billet to a spectator, you'd have them go behind their hand, and you tell them, look, place it behind your hand, and now let's see. I have to identify which hand is empty in order to identify the hand that has an object. You open this hand and you show that you're able to know exactly in which hand they've been holding the paper. No electronics, no funny business. It's direct as that. Then you say, perfect, place it on the table. I want us to play an imaginary game of heads or tails. You know the game? Excellent. So now I won't go through the whole type of performance because it is pretty long. He does go over everything that you need to know in order to justify the performance. I'm going to skip that because I also don't want to give you basically how it's done, because the language and the script is basically the method. But you'd have someone flip an imaginary coin in the head that go heads or tails, and you tell them, you know how heads or tails works. You have to guess whether it's heads or tails. Which is it as the coin is flipping? Let's say they go for heads. You say, perfect, you have a chance to change. When I touch the paper, you can't change anymore. Do you want to change? Let's say they change last second or not. Let's say they change to tails. You say, perfect, tails. Excellent. So now keep in mind, you know how heads or tails work. When you play with someone, one of them is the winner. So you chose the winner to be tails. The winner for me would then be heads. So then you would go back into your patter. Again, for this, it's going to be like, oh, that trick is pretty bad. But with the patter and everything, it makes sense. But I don't want to give you that patter to spoil the routine. But they say, so I would win with heads. You would win with tails. And unfortunately, like with the 28 people before you, with the presentation that you said, I win because I have heads. You lose with tails. Unfortunate that you're the 29th person in a row to lose with me at this game. So that is one of the routines that you can do. Again, I didn't put the whole pattern because I didn't want to, give everything away in the language that is used here, because with going back and listening to it, you could probably piece out how it works. And I really encourage you to actually learn this and look at the Penguin Live, which is something I'm going to repeat a lot. But that's one of the routines in the download. So the first phase uses a which hand, and then you do a heads or tails. Then he's also going to teach you some other things. He's going to teach you a 10 card find. So you shuffle a deck of cards, just put 10 cards on the table. You ask a spectator to flip them over and switch their positions. Afterwards, you ask them to pick up one and look at it, pick up another one that they want, which is going to be the dupe or the lie card. You ask them to lie about what their card is with the lie card, shuffle everything back up, and then you'll be able to determine what their card was while everything is face down on the table, which is fantastic. He's then going to teach you the green neck system. So if you don't own his book, he's going to teach you the very first effect in the book, which is using cutlery. And he's going to teach you improvements on it that you can use to make it even more deceptive. He's then going to teach you a routine that you can do with two invisible dice and glasses, where people are going to do, you're essentially doing a three cup Monty with invisible dice and clear cups. So nothing can be gimmicked, nothing can be tricked, everything is kosher. he's going to teach you how to do that with 2 spectators. And then knowing the green neck, he's going to give you a ton of ideas. He's going to say how you can do it with billets, with objects, with whatever you want. He's going to tell you, once you know the system, everything that you need to know. He's then going to go over a big performance piece that starts out with a color prediction that he's also going to teach, a heads or tails game where he knows every single time in what hand the spectator has the coin, but also whether they placed it heads or tails. And then he ends the routine with a loser wins principle, where the routine is essentially the spectator tries to fool you. They actually fool you, so you lose, but they actually didn't, because you show a prediction where you not only predicted the imaginary currency that they're going to use and the denomination, you've predicted which hand they were going to place the coin in, you predicted which hand you were going to choose and the fact that you were going to lose. But not only that, you also predicted whether the imaginary coin was going to be face up or face down. So that is a huge routine that plays around like 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes on stage. He's going to teach you how to do that, except the middle part, which is the heads or tails, where you know every time whether it's heads or tails and in which hand it is. That one, he said it's a product that he bought, and he's not in the authority to teach it to you, but he gives you alternatives and ideas and other product that you could buy to fill that gap. Afterwards, he's going to teach you Heritage, which is a published effect that I've reviewed previously. He's going to teach you how it works and how to make it at home if you so want. If that's something that interests you, he's going to tell you how to do that. And then he's going to go over the heads or tails routines that I said, the 2-phase routine, and then into some additional ideas using his Schrodinger principle. So he's going to tell you how to apply it to cards, to names, to whatever you want. He's going to teach you how to expand that principle in many different ways. So that is everything that you learn in his lecture. So where do you buy this lecture? How much does it cost? And what do you get? So you can buy this exclusively from Penguin Magic. It's going to set you back 40 USD, which is around 60 Canadian dollars. And what you get is a 3-hour-ish lecture with him and Eric Tate, with live performances, both for spectators at a show, but also for the studio with Eric Tate. You're also going to get extremely good explanations, video quality. Everything is well explained. It's nice that Eric also asks questions, whether he's unsure, to explain to the audience. If ever you're unsure, you probably have the same question. They do brilliant back and forths. Keep in mind that Gabriel's first language isn't English, so it is a bit Frenchy, but it still is very understandable. His English is pretty much very good. He did a full show in English as well, and everyone liked it and everyone understood. But keep in mind, it's not his first language, so sometimes he does have some difficulty using certain words. But for me, it wasn't much of an issue, and I doubt it's going to be an issue for you as well. Everything is brilliantly explained in the video. It's, as with all Penguin Live lectures, it is top quality. Now let's talk about difficulty. So how difficult are the effects to perform? Well, overall, most of the effects are very easy to perform. As I said, none of them use really much sleight of hand or expensive gimmicks or trickery. All of them really work on language. Most of the effects, and pretty much every single effect, works on language and subtleties. So yes, you're not going to have to learn any moves, but you're going to have to learn the correct language to use. That doesn't also mean you have to learn verbatim his script. You just need to know in your language and in your persona and in your style how to adapt the key lines in every single effect to work in your language. So you're not learning per se an entire script, you're learning key lines within a script that you can change and make your own. As long as those key lines are within the script, you are good to go. So it is pretty easy to do mechanically, but there are some things you do need to consider. There are variations, there are things that may go wrong, things that may go happen, but what's also nice is that every time it's gonna go right. So when I mean it's going to go wrong, it's still going to play in your favor. So this is not like a lot of propless mentalism or mentalism that uses borrow objects on the moment, where if it fails, you have to have a quippy line to say, okay, now that I know what you think, let's move into this, or that needs extra predictions or would just fail. Everything here is going to hit. That's what's really impressive, is because it's based solely on language, and the fact that that language makes it impossible to fail, it's always going to hit, no matter what the spectators does. Even if they try to trick you, it will work, which is brilliant about the method, but it will require performance charisma. It will require you to already be pretty good at talking and performing mentalism in order to achieve these effects with prowess. So yes, it is easy, but I would say it is rather intermediate in order to get the effects to work at their top level, because everyone can do these effects, but not everyone can do these effects well. That's the thing that you need to remember. Now let's talk about carrying capacity. So there are some effects that are designed for stage. So those effects do require a bit more. They require bigger predictions. They require some envelopes, some larger envelopes, some prediction envelopes, etc. So those, of course, will require a bit more space. The one with the glasses will require transparent glasses, etc. Okay? So for those, but those are made for big pieces, right? So they're made for stage. So the carrying capacity is based on you performing for stage. However, a lot of this material can be done casually, table hopping everywhere, and requires minimal. You know, the heads or tails routine just requires 2 slips of paper. The 10 card find just requires a normal deck of cards. The green neck system just requires 3 objects and a prediction. Doesn't even require a prediction if you don't want to do it mentally. It doesn't even require the objects to be brought with you. You can use cutlery, you can use a gum and your wallet and your phone. You can use whatever you want. You can use billets with drawings. You can have them do billets with drawings. You can use the items from their pocket. You can do whatever you want with the grid neck system, so you don't even need to bring anything with you as long as you know the system. So what I'm saying is that overall, it's very light on carrying capacity, whether you do stage or parlor or close-up. The routines that even for stage or parlor are very minimal. You just carry around a few envelopes. This is pretty much what you're carrying around with you in your case. Yes, they are larger, but it's very minimal. So it's very minimalistic in terms of carrying capacity. In terms of inspectability, almost all of the routines are fully inspectable. Pretty much everything is fully inspectable from top to bottom. In terms of angles, the routines are pretty much 360 angle proof because they're not based on any moves or sleight of hand, so they're angle proof. In terms of reset, most of the routines have an instant reset, except for 1 or 2, like the 10 card find that I talked about, which that one does require a bit of a reset. Most of all the other routines are instantly reset and instantly repeatable. In terms of a table, some of the effects will require a table, like the one with the cups. Well, obviously the cups are not going to float or is not going to work, so they require a table. Same for the 10 card find and for a few others, but a lot of them can be done standing up, no table whatsoever in the hands, okay? Now let's get into where do you perform. So where do you perform these effects? All of these effects, he even shows you, he performs most of them except for one which is really designed for stage. He performs all of them for Eric Tate at the table in the studio. But then he also shows you how he performed the same exact effects in a live stand-up show. So you can see how all of these effects work both for close-up, except for one, which is the longer routine. All of them work for close-up, but all of them that work for close-up work for stage as well. So these effects can pretty much be performed anywhere that you want. Covering all of this, let's get into the positives and negatives of these lecture. Let's get into the negatives. What are the negatives of this lecture? Where there's only one. Is that if you're very familiar with Gabriel Werlen's work and you own a lot of his products, for example, myself, I own Devil Cups, I own Heritage, I own his booklet, and I own also his iceberg book. So because I own all of this, a lot of the material that he explained, I already knew. However, it's nice to see how the material from page is transcribed in live. So I actually learned a lot of subtleties in routines that I already did from seeing him performing them on video, because that's always the thing with the book sometimes, is that you do it, but then you see how just a single word doing it live in a video changes the entire tonality, the entire punch, the entire prowess of the effect. So it was nice to see it live, so I learned a lot from this. So even though I knew a lot of the methods, I also own the green neck system, so I own pretty much almost everything that he explained, but it's nice to see them in video format, because through books, sometimes you miss, especially with language-based magic, it's always nice to see it visually in a video, and it was, even though that can be a negative, is that you'll know a lot of the effects, seeing them performed live and seeing them explained in video is going to be beneficial. To me, do I regret buying this? Absolutely not. I learned so much, even though I already knew the routines, but that is something to keep in mind, okay? And that is the only negatives. In terms of positives, the routines are relatively to do. The practicality of them is fantastic. You can perform them anywhere. They're very light in carrying capacity. They can be done with impromptu objects. They're foolproof. There's no ambiguities here, even though that's a phrase that he says a lot. There's no ambiguity, even though the entire effect is an ambiguity. And that's fun to know, is that, because of the method, the way you present it, it's not ambiguous at all. But if they were actually to trace back everything that you've said, the effect is very ambiguous. But the brain doesn't cap that, and he gives you examples. And even when he performs to Eric Tate and you follow along, you're going to be like, oh, wow, that was incredible. And then when he explains, he's like, but no way it's that simple. So it's great in that respect, well shot, well produced, and the material is straight fire. So do I recommend Gabriel Werlen's masterclass or Penguin lecture, if you rather call it that? Yes. Yes, 10 times fold, yes. I think it's fantastic. I think that if you're a magician, you may not get as much out of it. If you want to add a mental touch to your magic, go for it. But if you're a mentalist, buy it. Buy it. You will not regret it. It is phenomenal. I love it. I'm giving it an insane review already. We're starting the year with some extremely good products. Gabriel Werlen's Penguin Live, in my opinion, for the value and the material that you get here, is a 10. 10 on 10 for Gabriel Werlen's Penguin Live. Phenomenal, fantastic, usable material that I've already gigged with after learning it, and that I prepare to gig much more in the future. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. 10 on 10 from me for this lecture. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below. If not, I'll see you all in my next review. Have a good one, and bye-bye.